and it is it it was going, oh shut up, it was going to hit the gate. All right, gate, we need to fix the gates issues. And then I'm going to tell Tesla that it's still not stopping at gates because I tested it yesterday. And now we're going to close to the gate and it is not stopping at the gate. But Tesla has to solve it because if you want to have a full autonomy, you have to be able to stop at gates.
Oh, it's getting over in that lane. Very good.
Oh, it hadn't done that before.
No.
Slow
and this
down.
other,
Slow
it's at
down.
5.
It did it!
So I'm going to speed it up. That was fantastic. So if you want to get through a gate, just lower your speed. I was able to lower it down to 5.
We're going to have 0 interventions.
Here we go. Approaching the gate. Hard to see. We're going a little bit too fast. Ah! Ah! Oh, yeah, we definitely would have hit that.
And I've got a red light, and what's it doing? Oh, no. I let it go through the stop line. It was showing a red light, and it was going straight towards that crossbar, and you can even see the drawbridge coming up. Thin crossbar is a gap right now. We need to work on that. There was red lights in front of me that aren't even being rendered. I have another shot just because I can. And so I've got a mapped path straight ahead. I've got a mapped red light, and I've got a flashing yellow, even though there's a flashing, and it's going straight through it. Okay, I can't explain that, guys. So Tesla, I'm gonna send this to you guys. Take a look at it. It's a great clip. I'm gonna go ahead and mark it.
Speed bumps in front here. We're slowing down for the speed bump, which we're taking. We're speeding up, speeding up, speeding up. I disengage. It was, which is across the road, lit up in bright LEDs in red, as you can see. Let's see if it does anything. I have a feeling autopilot is not gonna stop. Damn it.
Okay, this is where it ignored the thing, and it would have done it again. Okay, so we're going to let it go. I mean, aside from getting smacked in the forehead with that thing, I'm not driving. I just immediately disabled it and then enabled it because it didn't see that gate.
All right, Scott, can you see that? Are you okay? Can you see it?
Yeah, I can, but FSD can't.
We want to talk today about a really serious problem with Tesla's full self-driving. Like, no joke, actually, but this is something that I've experienced for several years, actually, driving to Washington, D.C. You have experienced it personally. And then Richard was kind enough to send us a couple of videos that we are going to go over.
You cannot see
exactly
a single pull gate, like a double pull gate. If things are hanging down, if it's, yeah, I guess that's in your case, it's like toll booths that are a problem. No, I don't live in a
well,
gated
it's actually
community.
easy pass lanes. Yeah, but anyway, it's scary. It's really scary.
So I don't have to experience day to day. I mean, the only time I might see it is every now and then I have to go over a drawbridge. Actually, it's not that rare. It's just it's rare for me to be right in the front.
Let us go to this. He engages full self-driving and then has to immediately disengage. There it's engaged and then, disengage right away.
Yes.
So that's number one. He is driving at 25 miles an hour, the speed limit, coming to the exit of his gated community. And you'll see that it will pop up as well in just a second. See, it's the blue little steering wheel is there. And then he has to disengage.
Now, this is a refresh Model S, so it's not like an older one. So it's got recent hardware on there.
2022,
It's 12.3.6. He's had this in like every single release. And it's the type of thing that if he doesn't disengage, the gate may start to open in time, but it could clip the vehicle just it just gets too close. So he has to stop every single time. It never seems to notice it. And that's clearly in the line of sight of the dash cam. We don't have the dash cam footage here, but I think we can assume the dash cam is seeing that. And it's just for some reason.
No question. I mean, it's up above your head and shooting.
Yeah.
There's 3 cameras. Yeah. So you can see that the car, it's hard to see, but the car is not visualizing that. You can see here, this is a better view. If you watch the car in the blue noodle here, it comes up. Let's see, I'll play it. So he stops, so you can see that, but the car never visualizes. It never sees that pole. So I have a theory about this. Do you have a theory about this, or you?
I'm just assuming it's something to do with some size criteria, that when something's below a certain size, it's like, oh, it's nothing.
Right.
But it doesn't make sense because it should see the length of it. So it's almost like, is the diameter too small? If it was a bigger
Right.
diameter, would it work? I mean, if you had a
Well, and
telephone pole sticking across like that, I assume it would see that. So I don't think it's the shape of the object. I'm kind of surprised it's
right.
not picking up on the color, because I mean, there's a color code on there, and and that should just
Yeah.
stick out like a sore thumb. That's like, hey, you should stop for that.
Right. And yeah, I mean it's a barber pole stripe. It's like white
Yeah.
and red. And those,
Yeah.
so yeah, it should be able to recognize.
This is an interesting example where we have two bars, and the system actually picks up the obstacle. The top very thick. A bit weird to go before it is fully up and the car swerves right to avoid the raising gate, but that is probably only lacking a train behavior for gate passing. You can see a gray shadow where the gate is. FSD didn't have a gate symbol, and maybe still don't, so it will be gray matter in FSD lingo.
So, humans and machines does not perceive colors or objects for that matter in the same way. The sensor function is not that different, and in that sense the electronics can be very much superior to the eye, especially a suite of specialized sensors. But the understanding of what is seen is automatic for humans, and an AI does not understand at all. It classifies according to instructions. In particular at night, the shutter speed limits the amount of color-specific spectra to reach RGB detectors, especially for miniaturized cameras, as in a car. Also, the continuous shaking reduces the possible exposure time due to risk for motion blur. So, when the guys here say that the colors would stick out like a sore thumb, they kind of jump a bit ahead in the analysis. We don't know the specifics here in the case of seeing bright colors, but it is certainly not a given.
As shown in the video examples, the different cars over different FSD versions fail to detect orange LED-lit bars in the night, as well as bright yellow against gray, daytime. So something else is going on. Also, as tech guys show, an aluminum ladder is detected when steps are vertical, but not when laying down. So, color and width of the bar is not likely the issue here. Although, increasing the width eventually must render some kind of virtual object. Otherwise, Teslas would hit stuff all the time, and they really don't. Also, determining actual size of an object require knowledge of the distance to it, as we see in the ocean picture, how far away and how big is the boat. If we have some knowledge about boats so that the AI first determines the class of sailboat, a single-mast boat between 20 and 50 feet maybe, and so on. Also, since we cow that the boat rests on the ocean, we can lock down a second relationship. You can begin the estimate. Now the ballons. They are not connected to the ground, and we might have some knowledge of their size. The right one is definitely a human carrying hot air balloon, but how about the heart-shaped? Clearly not a party ballon, but maybe an oversized parade ballon. We as modern-day people with experience from this might not get the true distance, but we can distinguish between party balloons and the ones made for human transport. So we understand what we are seeing. Something that is put to the test in UFO sightings. The truck in the tunnel. First of all, you have the object class. Truck, how big are they? Then the road elongation. Also, since the truck box will intersect the road in 2 dimensions, it becomes fairly easy. So with image processing that knows what it sees, give us a good approximation about the geometry in this situation. I mean, come on. What is that? Darth Maul? In an invisibility cloak?
So you get rid of the radar. Now you've got vision, but the way that digital cameras work is they scan line.
Yeah.
You know, they're CMOS. They're generally, I think these are CMOS chips. I think, yeah. So I think what they're doing is they're scanning, and you've got a lot of vertical resolution is very, very good. And if you
Hmm.
have things, if you've ever like waved a camera, a CMOS camera around, you'll see it kind
Yeah.
of does the little dancey thing, especially the older ones. But it still detects those things, right? Even if they're kind of wavy and goofy. And so my theory is that upright. And I wish that we had like a video of the gate going like this and closing and seeing if it's like, oh, I see it, I see it, I see it, I see it, I don't see it. When it lands in the scan line, which is exactly horizontal,
Okay.
that's when I think the vision, like the camera scan lines, I think it thinks it's noise.
Image is captured one row of pixels at a time, starting from the top frame and moving down to the bottom. This means that if there's any movement in the scene, the image may become distorted. Objects can appear slanted, bent, or even warped, creating the infamous jello effect. The rolling shutter effect is particularly noticeable when filming fast-moving objects, such as a moving car or a spinning propeller. As the camera scans the image, the object moves, causing the image to become distorted. But it's not just fast-moving objects that can cause the rolling shutter effect. Even simple movements, such as panning your camera, can cause distortion. As you move the camera, it captures the image at different times, causing the rolling shutter effect to kick in.
The train has actually moved while a frame is being captured, thus making the train more pointy, if you will. The Golfers Club appear more warped with typical digital scanning than with a highly specialized, state-of-the-art device. A solution to this is the global shutter, where all lines are read simultaneously. The thing is that when this solves the distortion problem, virtually all other aspects are weakened. The cost difference for once, sensor sensitivity, and data handling issues. The standard approach for cars is electronic rolling shutters, although Mobile have also global types in their suite of options that they provide to the auto industry. Typically, it seems kind of preferred to solve the distortion by image handling, virtually stitching the image back again. It is almost certain that Tesla uses rolling shutters, especially since the technology wasn't really there 10 years ago.
The guys now discuss the challenge with vision-only systems, that a small near object looks exactly the same as a faraway large object. Same as I discussed a minute ago, but specific to gates. So in this particular case, a near gate might as well be a faraway curb. As I have illustrated, a machine learning nightmare.
I think it's like, it's just crap in the background. It's a curb that's far away, whatever.
Maybe it's a marking on the road or something like that.
Yeah, so it doesn't, because remember, we don't have radar anymore. We are doing pseudo LiDAR, which means that it's using its vision cameras to understand the world.
Yeah.
And under most circumstances, it works really well. But I think that due to the camera goofiness, the fact that it's scanline cameras and the fact that it's really horizontal and the fact that even looking at these videos, if you just take a quick look at this, it's, well, maybe not here, but like here, obviously to us humans, we're like, yeah, okay. But if you think about this, if you're looking at this and maybe like, squint your eyes or something, it's like, yeah, okay, it's possible that this thing might be considered a curb that was far away or something. So I think it's a LiDAR fail. I think it's a pseudo LiDAR failure. It's a thing where because it's not actually
okay, yeah, it could. Yeah, if you look at that, you could almost think of that. It's like a barrier fencing or something around there. Like you say, it almost looks like it could be demarcations for that as opposed to something right in front of you.
And I'm a little surprised it fails at this rate because it's so close to it. But under these circumstances where it's driving, it's puny, right? I don't even see this. Now, this is admittedly, it's 720p, so it's not that great a resolution. But where do you actually see the gate out there? Right?
Yeah.
So I can start to see it there. But look at that. I mean, that's pretty easy to mistake that for background.
Okay, that's possible with it being horizontal, and then as you start to get a little bit closer, but it should, from the perspective, be able to tell actually where it is. So like with one frame, you can be tricked on thinking something is distant, but when you start seeing it build up, you should be able to tell, oh no,
but think about this too. You don't get parallax. If this thing is vertical, you're going to see it changing perspective relative to the background. This is horizontal. It doesn't change perspective. So the only thing it's doing is getting bigger. I think, there's a parallax issue here too, which is that every frame it's like determining, it's like, okay, is it moving relative to the background? That means it's closer, but this isn't. You're coming straight on at this thing. Look at the road surface. It's dead horizontal, right? This thing is dead horizontal and it's not changing. If we play this back, right? Okay. I'm curious to see if... No, it never visualizes it at all.
Actually, we know that this bar is detected in the correct position after the car has been manually stopped, really close. That does not mean all bars are seen up close. This being evident since cars will restart again with gate still down. It seems the bar disappears upon reversing, but now we run into great uncertainties in knowing what the car knows. Also note the curvature of the undefined object that the bot sees, or the bird's eye representation of it. This is an artifact of the distorted perspective of wide-angle cameras with close objects, a distortion that to correct you have to know where it actually is in space. If you're familiar with FSD, you know that close objects maneuvering is really sketchy since ultrasonics was removed. This is another consequence of the same challenge. So FSD has to distinguish actually curved objects from apparently curved ones, which naturally becomes harder for thin objects.
I think it's not a bad theory that it may have something to do with it being horizontal. And
absolutely, it does.
You say it's a bit tricky because you're constantly trying to label all these things and then have persistence with them, and then notice that if that's the same thing I keep on seeing and I'm noticing its volume,
that box is there. Now the problem, of course, is that it could be vertical at this point, but at least that training, it should be able to go like, hey, there's a box here. I should be particularly aware of whether there's something in the road that's black, that red and white.
So, coming back to the part where AI image analysis learned to recognize the posts that hold the bar. That is acquiring knowledge elsewhere. Then skewing the image detection away from a distant curb to that any horizontal line is a gate in this area. It gets pretty heuristic, as it is called, which is engineering for a method to use lacking a real good one. There are virtually endless ways of designing a gate mechanism holder, as well as an infinite number combinations of gate colors and the colors and positions of neighboring paint curbs, for instance. Not counting LL roadside boxes that are not mechanisms for gates. It would generate false positives in heaps. So this is not viable for self-driving.
A door is tricky because it's hovering above the ground plane. So to get measurements of something hovering above the ground plane is tricky when you talk about cameras. And it's sufficiently important from a safety critical point of view that you want to do something dedicated for it.
Pseudo-LiDAR, as they talk about, is when you take a time series of images and compare objects that are parallaxed, that is, have shifted in position relative to other objects. If they are static as you move, or if you are static as they move, then geometry will give all distances to everything. However, objects on the center line of the camera we are using are not shifted relative to anything. So the only way to get info is how it grows from perspective. That is really hard to do since we do not know the actual size.
In this scene from Cook, we can draw lines along features. However, the black dotted one is not one that can be deduced. It's only that we already know it. Without this, the gate can be anywhere. If we look at parallax vertically and what happens with the bar near camera height, it is obvious that we have a problem. The bar will pan very little relative to the background. A high or low bar would improve detectability since parallax increases. Note that we are assuming zero pitch, horizontal view, for cameras in this depiction. If pitch exists for forward cameras, things get much harder. To understand better, we imagine a second camera placed lower. It is obvious why this would present a solution regardless of height of the bar. We get two images with the same looking object, but they move differently in the images. Interesting in this context is the various heights above ground for cameras for different Tesla models. How Tesla handled this in FSD releases is unclear, but obvious is that the Cybertruck would have better odds of detecting a gate due to better parallax for a typical gate. Actually, the Cybertruck's perception of the world is quite different than if we go to the semi-truck that still have no FSD. It shifts again. 2024, there are a lot of rumors of a bumper camera that Tesla neglects to comment on. Maybe they're on the same track. We know Tesla have fitted Model S with radars again, so that might solve the problem anyhow. As a reference, Mobileye and most others use a LiDAR to train vision systems. They document a route with both LiDAR and video. Then they have absolute truth from the LiDAR. Machine learning then tries to use only the stored vision information and still get the truth provided by LiDAR. This to improve performance for Level 2 systems, eyes on road at all times, like Tesla FSD today, thus not needing LiDAR for these driving aid systems. Eyes off is not applicable for vision only. But also if vision system is improved even with LiDAR and radar, it is better if they agree on conclusions more often.
This is not just an annoyance issue, because it is an annoyance when you're going slow in a neighborhood, but it's also safety critical. If it blows it at a railroad crossing where the thing's down sideways, now then it should be able to determine it, because there's also those big flashing lights and stuff
Hopefully,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it would. But if it blows it with that, you could die. And there's a bunch of them. It's not just one.
Yeah,
There's like
yeah.
multiple
That's right.
multiple of these things. Yeah. Car never, I mean, literally from this, I've driven to my parents' house so many times, and it never will see them. That's on city streets. That's not on highways.
Not on the
so it's the
highway,
newest
city
tech.
streets.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it
Yeah, absolutely.
it should be doing a better job. And I'm very concerned that it's a fundamental hardware / software issue that's going to be very difficult for them to overcome if they haven't made progress on it already.
Hmm.
So anyway, so if somebody from Tesla, or actually somebody who makes this kind of stuff, wants to come on and give us their expertise, like I said at the beginning, just my speculation on what's going on here.
Now I can clearly see the ladder myself, and hey, it's slowing down. This is good. It's slowing down. It would have gone right over it. Oh, it would have gone right over it. So, ladies and gentlemen, be very, very careful when you're using full self-driving, because it will run over ladders in the road. Okay, the sun is shining on it very clearly. No. Oh, did you see that? Okay, that was pretty cool. Sees the ladder. All right, now it can't get around the ladder at all. I wonder if it sees it. So it's not showing up in the visualization, but it is going really slow, which is good. Okay, it's trying to go to the right. Okay, I did have to take over. It would have ran right over it, probably, is my guess, if I did not stop. And look at this, now it's actually going to the left a little bit. Awfully close, awfully close. There was actually an arrow, and there you could see there was some gray matter showing up. So it did display the ladder on the screen, which is great. It needs to get over to the left. No, it's gonna crash right into it. So if I let it keep going, it would have crashed. Now you can see 20 inches, my ultrasonic sensors are picking up that ladder, and it's saying I'm 20 inches away from an object in the road. That's interesting to see. So if I turn it on, let's just see if it goes right through there. Yes, so it just hit the ladder. I believe that Tesla, even with the cars that have ultrasonic sensors, I believe they moved away from using the sensors entirely. I think it's all vision now. So, I mean, it still gives you beeping sounds and warnings, but as far as the logic, or actually there's no logic, maybe that's why it's not going around it very well.
Okay, it sees the speed bump. And nope, I don't think it saw it because it was going to hit it, so I hit the brake.
Summary. Likely and conceivable reasons for the issue. The ambiguity of a gate being either a gate or a distant curb or some other horizontal feature. An object inherently hard to classify. Compare stop signs or traffic lights. The inherent challenge with hovering objects, seemingly not attached to the ground. Hovering ambiguous objects and determining them for their position in space. Traffic lights and stop signs are detection-wise easy and also standardized in size and design. When risk of confusing with other objects, that is when these shortcut method fail. And if not really flying, determining tertiary order physical connections to terra firma. The lack of useful vertical parallax, since cameras are about the same height as the gate. Also, often no usable reference objects to gauge against. Only one camera in height level. So, apart from radar and LiDAR solving the problem instantly, or a map that knows about the gate. Distortion of a long, narrow object close-up. A straight bar warped by camera wide-angle lens. Less likely, but technically possible contributions. Up and down vibration / motion of the car. Motion in order of magnitude with the bar diameter, typically, at distance. Maybe, but if so, in conjunction with other phenomena like rolling shutter. Color by itself is not something to cling to even if most gates logically come in bright colors. So this kind of disqualifies use for this property. The rolling shutter effect. The apparent velocity of the gate across the image as we drive, pixels per second if you will, is in all directions but certainly for the gate and for a distant curb case, very low. Typically at relevant distance, you would get at least a couple of % of pixel lines vertically representing the object. So it would surprise if it is a challenge to get a good enough image of the object. Understanding, size, position, and distance, and thus semantically understanding is the issue. This is about as far we can get into the issue without real experts on the matter and Tesla giving up their algorithm. This video tries to go a bit further in analyzing details and explaining than what Dr. Know-It-All and Scott did. We got a bit further, but basically...
Dr. Harris.
Yes?
Do you concur?
Concur with what, sir?
With what Dr. Ashland just said. Do you concur?
Well, there was a bicycle accident. The boy told us.
So you concur?
Concur?
I think we should take an x-ray, then stitch him up and put him in a walking cast.
Very good, Dr. Ashland, very good. Well, you don't seem to have much need for me. Carry on.
Blew it, didn't I? Why didn't I concur?